All right, we're live here on the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. It's a Sunday night. It's just after 8 p.m., and you know what time that is. Well, I mean, of course, shouts and love, of course, as always, to our pal. But nevertheless, we are here. Kevin Kelly, your host, Casey Thompson, the man who created the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. And Casey, how are you tonight? How is things in Florida?
It's very hot, but I'm doing very well. Hopefully, I'm not going to have the same problem you had last week in your studio. The air is working, the fans are on. So, as I was watching the replay of it over and over, I was like, man, he's dying in there.
As the show went along,
But
folks,
no,
if you
it's all
didn't see
good.
last week, my shirt just was filling with water.
Oh,
this
yeah.
week I got the fan hooked up. I apologize for any audio. If you hear any humming or whirring in the background, it's because I got a low fan that's on low, but at least it's something. But yeah, it's about 90 every day here. It's just like Florida weather.
Ooh.
With thunderstorms every day and rain, and it's been El Crap.
Yeah. It was 96 degrees yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now you're
That's
inland,
brutal.
right? You're not on the coast.
Yeah, I'm in Central Florida. Florida. I'm literally middle of the state. So
that's not uncommon, but is it like clear? Is there no rain, or is it a humid 96?
Oh, it's humid 96, and it's been big old thunderstorms. Everything's been going on, but it's all good. You know, we're here for another exciting action-packed or non-action-packed. You know, laid
Could be
back.
action.
You know,
You never
telling
know.
some stories, embellishing. You know, making it good for the viewers.
One of our great guests, of course, that we've had on here on the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast was enhancement legend Bob Cook. Bob has been he's very outspoken on social media, and I kind of wanted to get your take on sort of the most recent product. And last night, AEW put on by all accounts, a very good pay-per-view in front of a very large crowd in Texas at a baseball stadium. It looked fantastic. But the length of the show, first, I want to get your thoughts on this. The length of the show overall was over 6 hours. What do you think about giving so much content packed into one show? What do you think as someone who's produced these things? What do you think about a 6-hour event?
Well, I mean, you would know this as well. I was always told. I learned a lot of the stuff I did from Kevin Sullivan, Dusty Rhodes, got greats from back in the day. And unfortunately, neither one of them are with us any longer. But I still remember a lot what they're saying. Kevin Sullivan used to tell me that the average person's attention span is like 17 seconds long.
Yeah.
So 6 hours of wrestling. I did read somewhere people are complaining that out of the 6 hours of wrestling, they had only like 3 hours of in-ring action. The rest of it was a bunch of gaga and all that stuff, which WWE is very famous for that too. And I wonder why. Do you think it's because the talent isn't as good and they can't keep the people's attention longer, that they got to do all these fancy Hollywood vignettes and video packages and everything to keep their attention because they can't do it in the ring like they used to in yesteryear? But a 6-hour show, I'm sorry, there's no way I could do it. I couldn't watch it.
Well, you ask a very good question, and of course, time of a pay-per-view notwithstanding. Is it a smoke and mirrors theory where the in-ring talent today is not as good, and therefore we must dress up the production in order to hide weaknesses and accentuate strengths? I think perhaps. But I also know, and this is the other flip side to that, there are a ton of talented people on the production side, and they could do a lot of great stuff. Some of that work goes unnoticed because people will sometimes tune off of the vignette or whatever. That's the time to go take a break from that, the long extravaganza. But they're missing a ton of great content. Now,
Right.
The people in charge of TNA, a lot of them came from WWE, and of course, the names that are most popular or most frequently associated with WWE production from our time in WWE and WCW was David Sahadi.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
what Sahadi did was art, a brilliant, almost filmmaker like vision. But was a tried and true wrestling guy. His father, Lou Sahadi, God rest his soul, was a legend in the publishing business, and
Right.
had a long career. And his son followed in his footsteps in the television side. And Kevin Dunn, for all of his warts and everything, and boy, did we get a ton of feedback, a ton of views on the shorts about him. My God, what a lightning bolt!
Oh, yeah.
If we're ever needing some content, Casey, just bring up Kevin Dunn. I'll tell a quick Kevin Dunn story, and we'll make our quota for the month.
Vince, Kevin Dunn, and Tony Khan gets a lot of viewership for us.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
I like it.
And
I used to really, doing TV, we had to be hours and hours early. And a lot of guys was just like, playing cards, this and that. I used to sit out and watch the production, watch them putting together the vignettes and stuff like that. And I took all that as like a learning experience for when I ran my wrestling promotion. And of course, I didn't have the budget that they had and all kinds of stuff like that. But I made, took the best, basically turning, chicken shit into chicken salad, so,
right.
but, yeah, it's amazing what they can do now with animation and all that they can do now. And, they don't have to even move. There's just a couple strokes of the keyboard, and it just turns into something amazing.
Right. When I got there, of course, when I got in WWF, it was all tape, and there was very little digital.
Right.
We would call, so Master Control, where all the tape machines were, and in fact, that was where they used to record a lot of episodes of Livewire, was in WWF's Master Control. It was in the center of the 3 studios, or the 3 edit bays, really, with audio just beyond edit 1 and edit 2 and 3 on the other side. Anyway, digital was in its infancy and was just coming along, and the Avid guys were sort of like, off in their own little piece, and a couple of 3D artists would do what they could do with the technology that was there, and it took a lot of time, and probably still does.
Right.
But of course, what they did was amazing, but we're talking about doing all that work in the dial-up era. Now,
Right.
with, practically supercomputer speed at everybody's desk, they're able to do this and do it more frequently. You can have more of it, right?
Yeah.
You can fly graphics in, and you can have all this stuff pre-built, and you can have everything created and have it done fairly quickly. We just have to transmit it. So let's say they're doing it off-site. I know AEW uses, or at least used, the old TNA studio in Nashville. I'm not sure if they still do, but that's where they did a lot of their off-site work. So we would generally wait for the feed to finish these packages, because they would sweeten them and make them look all nice and groovy. And then they would be in the show for Collision that night. But a lot of times they were waiting on Tony Khan to make his mind up on what he wanted, or at least give his feedback on what they were going to. This is the finished product, Tony. We're just waiting for you to sign off. And then he'd be screwing around for hours, marking out over whatever. And then all of a sudden, we got to get this done. Whatever. But
yeah,
I want to see both sides get their time. You don't want to see time get cut from matches because the boys have worked so hard, although you could tell a great story in less time. And at the same time, you also don't want to deny seeing this incredible production if it helps with intriguing characters. Obviously, if you're building something like Stone Cold and The Rock for WrestleMania with My Way, then you're talking about something epic that stands the test of time. Very much a 90s presentation. But nevertheless, that was important because those guys were so important. If we're spending and we're putting a 4-minute package over some job guy tag team, then I don't really care.
Right.
the Outriggers or whatever their freaking names are. I don't get it. But anyway, I don't ever hammer on talent. But one of the most talked about moments, okay, there were two talked about moments last night, and both of them were far from PG. One was Trent Beretta shoving down, what's his face, a fat-faced kid. That got a pop and a half and a huge, social media thing, goes viral instantly.
Right.
And then Toni Storm doing what she did when she had old Mercedes Moné in the tombstone. And I'll leave that to your imagination.
Gotcha.
Those are things that you kind of don't want to show your mom and dad if you're talking about wrestling. But what I wanted to get to tonight, man, oh man, I'm a fan of, if blood is done in the right places at the right time, sure, blood enhances a story. I am not a deathmatch guy, Casey.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
I don't like it. And it's not that I don't respect the guys that do it. Correct? If you're, somebody like, when El Desperado and Jun Kasai had a recent singles match in New Japan. And of course, Jun Kasai is a deathmatch legend. And his body is like a canvas of all the scars.
Sure, I bet it is.
and you look at somebody like that and you go, wow, what is he? But he's sort of this deep thinking kind of intellectual hardcore deathmatch guy who realizes that this is his fate in life and can't do anything but this. So it's very interesting. But anyway, you look at last night's main event, and it was basically a death match with Jon Moxley and Hangman Page for the world title. You ever done anything like that? Have you ever been rolling around in glass and barbed wire? Take barbed wire. Barbed wire is a wrestling thing, but glass and light tubes and any of that stuff? Or was that a line you didn't cross?
No, I didn't cross that line at all. I often sometimes think about Mick Foley in Kazakhstan, and as much as he's done for the business, you also have to give him the discredit of what he's hurt the business with by making that, deathmatch stuff so popular and stuff like that by doing that stuff. I'm not. I mean, anything past thumbtacks, I'll tap out. I'm out. I'm not doing panels of glass and. I mean, where do you draw the limit? What enough's enough? I've seen people burnt, caught on fire and burned in things like that. And wow, To answer your question, no, barbed wire, no problem. Thumbtacks, I like to try to avoid it if possible, but it's probably happened in the past. But no, I mean, I'd rather give. I think I almost can give a really good stiff punch or a good couple of series of hard chops and get the same reaction that you might get out of some of that deathmatch stuff. To real wrestlers, we just look at it. Those are guys that just don't know how to work.
Right. And such is not the case with Jon Moxley and Hangman Page. They're obviously both very talented. Sure. I look at it, in two sides of the coin in the show. Yeah. We had Adam Cole earlier on in the broadcast who had to come out and couldn't wrestle and may never wrestle again if the story is true that he suffered another concussion on the previous Collision episode earlier in the week or the night before. I'm not quite sure when it was. And I didn't see the match, so I didn't see what happened. And I don't remember any news stories coming out post-Collision that Adam Cole was once again concussed. But nevertheless, at 36 years old and now seemingly getting a concussion from just working a normal match and maybe nothing extraordinarily happening to him, just the act of being in the slow speed car crash, taking a flat back bump.
We always called that?
What?
We called that being fragile.
Well,
because you have to look at it from in my era, there was no thing as concussion protocol. I'll give you an example. My son, for high school and for college, Division I, they had all the concussion protocol on. They had to take a baseline,
Keep
and
talking.
I can't tell you how many times he failed his concussion baseline, which was I you just laughed at him all the time that it was. I said, how can you pass a test that there's no, you know, grading scale or anything? So I meant to, see these guys now. I guess it's good because they learn from football and different things like that about
Yeah,
the. I was going to tell you to move it over a little, but that's
I
good
know, I
now. We
know.
can see that.
We put that up just before we went started the live show. So now I fixed it. That's the poster for the pro wrestling. Talk about that later. Anywho,
Yes,
when
we
you
will
got a
talk about that. I've been
concussion
seeing that
protocol,
everywhere.
yeah, I know. When you should come up here to Central PA, brother. There's everywhere, and they're fixing to be even more.
Oh wow, nice.
When you look at a concussion protocol, you're looking at panels of doctors and panels of neurologists who are evaluating a brain scan. But I knew for a fact, I knew what was told to me in person by Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi talked about wrestling Kenta in New Japan. And he said, Kenta has a glass jaw. He said it to me in English. And of course,
Oh wow.
that means you can touch him, pop him on the jaw, and he's going to go out. Right? Yeah. He can't take a punch anymore because he's gotten hit so many times in his career. So therefore, Kota Ibushi had to really work around Kenta's, I don't know what you want to say, fragility in that scenario. You just have to work
abilities.
Smart. Cognitive abilities anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Tetsuya Naito can't remember. One of the reasons why he retired and why New Japan didn't re-sign him is because he can't remember a match. You'll call it
what
back.
You're saying is Adam Cole has a glass jaw.
It might be that he has a glass jaw.
Yeah.
And then I was talking with Bob Evans before, and because Bob was out in Salt Lake City wrestling with Devotion Championship Wrestling and our pal Manny Lamons, and had a great time. And so I was filling him in on the Adam Cole news because we both love Adam Cole. We've seen his whole career since he was a baby and started with us in Ring of Honor. And it's just sad, And I look at, I said, maybe he's not, because you know how skinny he's gotten in the knock on that. Maybe he can't even push weight. You know what I mean? Like maybe he gets such bad blinding headaches that it hurts to work out. And I've never seen anybody speculate on that, but I've never known anybody to be so concussion prone that they can't work out. Now, did you ever work with anybody, an old timer or so and so, who you had to be careful because you could knock them out easily?
No, I mean, I would have definitely been the wrong person to put them in the ring with.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never dangerous, but I wrestled stiff, just the way I was taught. I learned the business because all the old timers that broke me in. You lay it in, but you lay it in a safe spot, a safe place. The face is fragile. So you're going to be very cautious to the face, but you're going to have an open chest or open upper back, stay away from the kidneys. You're going to lay that in, and it's going to, you're going to tag them. You're going to feel it, and you've been there, you've seen it. You can sit out there and watch and tell if you know what you're looking for. You can tell when guys are laying it in hard.
Right.
And a lot of the guys on TV with WWE, especially back in the Attitude Era and all that stuff, they were laying stuff in.
It was you had to, and it kind of was the style, the house style, if you will, because guys like Bradshaw and Ron Simmons and let's just say Benoit and Taker and those guys, they knew to hit hard and to make some sound. There was no thigh slapping with those guys. There was firm strikes. And it wasn't like they were going to hurt anybody on purpose. But again, you got that clothesline from hell from JBL, and you were going to feel it. Even if, it's just a big shoulder tackle with a swinging arm. Let's be fair. But nevertheless, the forearms where you reach way up and you whack a flat forearm across the back, you're going to feel that. It's going to make a big, loud sound.
You know what Blackjack used to say when he used to come up? He used to raise it all. He'd say, "Watch the tater, kid," and boom, he'd come, and it was a tater. I mean, he had fists like this big, and he'd lay that in. I wrestled Barry Windham, and I remember the chop felt like my clavicle like cracked. When I took a deep breath, I could feel it for a week. I mean, is that always necessary? Probably not, but it's just a part of the business. Some guys are light as a feather. And talking about the clothesline with JBL, you remember Lex Luger's clothesline? One of the worst clotheslines ever in the business. The one all up like this and come down. It was just. I'd rather just rip someone's head off. If they take a really good bump, they're not going to feel much of it anyhow. It's all about the timing of it and everything. So, but some guys could make something just look even worse. And I think that's sometimes what, a lot of what we're seeing nowadays is they're doing a million things 100 miles an hour. They're not giving time to let things register. And so they have to throw in the leg slaps and stuff like that to try to get the reaction from the people because they're moving so fast. So people aren't actually seeing it. They're actually hearing the supposed impact of the move, which is their leg slap and stuff like that.
Now, when you were an enhancement talent for both WCW and WWF, did you see any guys get concussed? I'm mostly assuming it would be fellow enhancers. Okay, so tell me what that was like when you got your concussions. What did you do afterward? How did you know it happened? What was the spot? What went on?
I can tell you this. I've had that I know of like an 11 concussions.
Wow.
I've had a lot of them. I mean, I've been hitting that. I'll give you an example of one that is right there. I was wrestling the French Canadians in WCW, which was Jacques, and then he's light as a feather. And then what's the big guy, the guy with the eye patch? He wrestled in WWF.
PCO.
Yeah, they were the French Canadians in WCW, and they were doing a thing where they shoot you off or something, or they grab you. They're going to do a Russian leg sweep, and then the big one come off with a clothesline as Jacques was doing the Russian leg sweep. As he was doing it, he clotheslined me right across the bridge of the nose in the face, and instantly, I just seen like a big flash. I went out, and then I remember because that was the finish too.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to the back, and Jacques was pissed. I mean, I wrestled him a bunch of times in WWF, and he was light as a feather. So, I mean, when you seen your name on the board, you knew who the guys were stiff or crowbars or stuff like that. And you're seeing like Jacques, you're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, this is like a night off, So it's gonna be just it's simple, easy, light. So he knew who I was because of that anyhow from wrestling a few times and knew that we took good bumps and stuff like that. But he was pissed when he knew that I got knocked out, and I was definitely concussed. I mean, because you feel like you feel like you have a head on about this big, and it's a big dome around your head, and everything's just cloudy, and you kind of basically what it is sort of is like taking some edibles and eating them sort of, and when you're so messed up you feel like you're in slow motion and you know what's going on but you're hearing it from up here but you're looking down at what's going on in slow motion. So and I've been hit so hard in the head with the chair because I've never blocked my chairs. I always just put the flat of the head and just got hit. And I've had, because of that, I probably have some, I see there's a little lump on my head right here. that's here. I'm actually getting removed tomorrow morning. So
What?
next week it might look like I've gigged myself and everything, because I'm having a surgical procedure to have that removed tomorrow morning. And it could be that, or it could be where I stuck the gig in and, cut myself or whatnot. But it's from years of, wrestling and getting hit with chairs and different things like that. So I would never put my hand up. I would just put the flat of my forehead and take it, which all that's doing is compressing your spine. And I remember a few times where I got hit so hard that people don't understand, I guess, in real life, you get hit and you see like those cartoons, like bam, wow, pow, and those stars. That's what you see. It's like you get hit and you see those big go flashing, boom, 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 stars. And, so it's I remember that the first time I experienced that when I was in high school. I was playing basketball, and it was near the end of the game. Someone was throwing the ball, and I was trying to block it, and the ball went straight into my thumb, and I just felt my thumb when it hit. I seen all the shock waves come through, like boom, and my thumb just boom, broke. It just swelled up instantly. So
Ooh.
yeah, and the same thing happened every time you get concussions. It's like you see that flash. You know that exactly when you get hit, you knew what happened. Of course, you're out. And I'll give you another time. A good friend of ours, Tilly, Big
Yep.
Tilly. I was wrestling. Um, I was wrestling Bruno and Tilly with my old partner, Cliff Anderson, and we were doing something where I was coming in as a hot tag or something, kind of messed up the hot tag, and I was throwing a drop kick and a drop kick, and then as I was getting up, Tilly was bumping, and when he bumped, his feet, your feet come up, he kicked me right in the temple,
Ow.
and as soon as he hit me in the temple, all I seen was like flashes, and I was out. And what happened when that happened, I also tore the your teardrop muscle in your leg. I tore that off the bone, so I thought I blew out my knee at first. And I finished the match, which is amazing that you still can do that stuff, because I guess it's muscle memory. I remember I finished the match. I don't remember finishing the match. I watched it on video that I did everything correct and right, but
So you finished the
that's
comeback,
concussions are
or
really
did you
weird.
guys?
What's
Or
that?
did you guys reset? Did you reset out of the comeback, or were you able to just pick up and keep going?
I just picked up and kept going.
Jesus.
And to the life of me, I don't remember how it happened. I mean, I don't remember what happened. I know I got kicked. I knew that afterwards. That I knew he didn't jump up and kick me, because Tilly was like, close to 400 pounds, if not then. So, and I watched it on the video. I was bending down as I was getting up, and I got kicked right in the temple, and just whoop, just everything shut down on me, went down. So, I mean, I feel for these guys that are getting concussions, but I was never a person that had that glass jaw that had concussions reoccurring so frequently and things like that. I mean, it sucks for Adam Cole that he's getting those concussions and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
going to be about the working out. I do hear from some people, and it could be just people complaining and stuff. They're like, oh, maybe if he goes and works out instead of playing video games, he might not get as many concussions and this and that. I guess he's got a
Here's a
bunch of
comment. Here's a comment. It was kind of stiff. I'm not going to lie. That's a stiff
oh
one right there.
geez.
B40. It's a stiff one.
I
Not
will
going to
tell
lie.
you, Freddie Mercury is the greatest voice ever in music to me. That's my favorite.
Good morning, Southern Joe. Actually, it's midday
Our friends
in
in
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome. And B40 had another comment, which I'm not quite sure about, and it's kind of stiff. He's got some good liners here. I can't. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm messing this all up. All right, now we got it. All right, we'll go back to this in a minute. So yeah, but okay, so yeah, Adam Cole plays a lot of video games. He's a Twitch gamer. It's a side income for him.
It's just exactly that's what I was going to get at. He has like 70,000 people. I don't get the and it might be my age because I'm a different generation of them. I don't get what it's to watch people playing video games. I don't understand it. I guess maybe because it helps you get better, getting through more levels by seeing what they do or whatnot. But it's just not my thing. I was
Well,
never
you
a
also have to,
big video game guy.
but you also have to engage with your audience. And we've all
Sure.
heard and seen punch drunk fighters over the years with,
Yeah.
slurring their words and things like that. But so Adam Cole is obviously, and you listen to the promo yesterday, he sounds like Adam Cole. He doesn't sound like
Yeah.
he's affected in that regard at all. But obviously there is something going on
Well, maybe
with
it's not
his brain.
concussions. Maybe he's just fragile. There could be a
It might be.
difference, you know.
It might be. Um,
You know,
I
maybe
don't
it's
know.
time for him to find another thing to do behind the scenes or
Now that's
behind the
okay. Now
mic or
that's the other question that I wanted to ask you.
oh,
Let's say you're the boss and you're paying Adam Cole a couple $1 million a year in guaranteed money.
God bless him.
What are you doing? You're the boss. Are you trying to get out of this contract? Are you trying to put him back in the ring, or are you telling him to go home and hang it up? And what are you doing? How are you
Well, I mean,
handling this?
I don't know Tony Khan. All I know is what I hear, see, and stuff like that. I don't know him personally. I don't see Tony. I think Tony Khan is, he marks out on people, and I think that he is one of them. So I think he's safe with his job. Knowing Tony Khan, he could just be sitting at home for the next 2 years because they have guys that have been on TV once or twice that are making a nice living just sitting at home.
Right.
But with Adam Cole's popularity and all that, to me, look at it this way: Ted Turner, you had Elegante that played basketball for the Atlanta Hawks. His contract, they took him and said, you know what, he can't play basketball. We're going to make him a professional wrestler. Because he was making whatever he was making per year to do that, and they
Right.
turned him into a professional wrestler because they wanted a return on their investment. So I would imagine they would find something for Adam Cole to do,
I've
as
done
a commentary or
I've done commentary
yeah.
with Adam Cole. He's brilliant. You
Oh,
mentioned
there you go.
You mentioned Kevin Sullivan before, and I will tell you a personal story about Kevin Sullivan and Adam Cole. So in Ring of
Okay.
Honor, Steve Corino and I were sort of the behind the scenes creative people. We weren't directly influencing Delirious, who's in charge of TNA now. He was the one who
Oh,
made the
really?
final decisions on everything, but Steve and I would be there to throw our ideas in and come in together like, hey, we think this is a really good idea. And he used a lot of our ideas.
Right.
One of the ideas that we came up with was to bring Kevin Sullivan in
Oh,
because
wow.
it's a huge, long story. And I could tell it we'd need a whole episode to tell the story. That Kevin Sullivan was Steve Corino's. I'll give you the quick version. Steve Corino was the son of the of Kevin Sullivan. Okay,
Oh,
and
okay.
the spiritual
Right.
father was Kevin Sullivan. Anyway, Corino. So we got to the point in the story where we needed some proof. We needed something, and let's bring Kevin Sullivan in. We're producing episodic television. Here's a guy who's produced more episodic television, more episodes than anyone else alive. Let's bring him
Yeah.
in because I think we can certainly benefit from Kevin Sullivan. And of course, there
Sure.
was a ton of pushback from Ring of Honor, from Joe and Greg. Oh, he wants too much money. He didn't, not at all. And his
No.
value would have been off the charts. Anyway, we brought him in a few
Yeah.
times. And we used to get together on let's say we were taping on Saturday. We'd get together on Fridays in Baltimore, and we would do the bulk of interviews and get them all done for the next month.
Mhm.
Adam Cole gearing up for final pay-per-view match. Can't remember the opponent. And Delirious had the idea of for the cold open, they wanted to take the two, I think it was Adam Cole and Jay Lethal. and cut up their comments so that one would say something and then somebody else would say something, and one would say something, the other would say something. And so we told Adam Cole, just talk for about 5 minutes. Random thoughts. Doesn't have to be late. You could take a pause. You could do whatever you want. And out of that, we'll pick the sound bites that we want, And
Right.
But don't worry about time. We'll just cut you off at 5 minutes. Figure we'll get more than enough in there. And Kevin Sullivan is standing there with me. And we count Cole in. And he starts. And he just is going. And he's not doing sound bites, Casey. He's doing a promo. A new promo that we hadn't heard before. We hadn't talked to him about any of this stuff. But he's bringing in depth and dimension to this story like I've never heard before. And because it's 5 minutes and because it's Adam Cole, just for ha-ha, let's count him down. 10. And then at 5, 4, 3, 2, and he finished.
Wow.
Kevin Sullivan stood next to me, had goosebumps all over his arms. He said, Kevin, I've been in this business 50 years. I've never seen anybody like him. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, brother, that's every day. He's the most naturally gifted wrestler I've ever seen, Adam Cole is. I've never seen anybody just take to high level, main event level work as awesomely as Adam Cole did. Every aspect of the game. And so that was all I ever needed to hear about Adam Cole. Of course, when Kevin Sullivan says something like that, obviously you have something very, very, very special.
Absolutely.
He could. I've done commentary with him because why did he do commentary with me? It was a battle royal. I think he was the champion, and it was one of those number one contender battle royals. So he sat there with me during the thing.
Gotcha.
And he was amazing. He did commentary, and he's got a great voice, and he was perfect. And just looking at him yesterday doing that promo, I don't think that the lights of the arena could bother him because it's not like one of those where he's got to be in a dark room. So that's good. So flashing lights in the arena and all of this and that and loud noises. He obviously, I think he could do that. But, one of the reasons why Nigel McGuinness quit wrestling was because of concussions.
Right.
And I think that might be the best avenue for him. He's certainly handsome enough to do it. He's certainly glib and outspoken enough to do it. He could be amazing. And I would do that. Southern Joe with a thought here, which is a very good one. And let me see if I can bring this up here on the screen. Why can't I show this now? Oh, show on the stream. There we go. He says, concussions affecting athletes in different ways. We do know that. Here in Australia, we've had at least two or three AFL players that have had to retire early because of a dozen or more concussions. So, I mean, that's the level of concussion that you've had, Casey, at least 11, like you said, and probably can double that number, correct?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is 11 that I know of. Excuse me. And I will tell you that you do notice the effects of them over time. Like you respond slower, your thoughts take a second to turn on. You know what you want to say, but you have to be able to figure out how to get it out. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this show was it was like a therapy for me.
Yeah.
To get better speaking and talking faster, be able to talk longer and be able to break up all the cobwebs up there from all the years of taking abuse to it, to be therapeutic for me, in my real life. And it has.
If you go back and if you watch the first few episodes to now, I can see a big difference, And it wasn't nerves. It's just that the neurons, whatever it is.
It's got to start firing in all different, all the cylinders and all that.
Yeah. When you look at concussions and the after effect? So each one got worse than the next? Did they linger, or were they about the same in terms of how you felt affected by them?
Everyone was a little different, I think. Some was worse than others. Some were, you know, just felt like you're just, I guess, I've never drank in my life, so I wouldn't know what it's like having a hangover the next day. But having a really bad hangover for a couple days where, if my experience, I always felt like I was like moving slower than what was going on. Like I was stuck in the slow motion. That was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have the motor skills and all that. Everything was just slow. So, but yeah, or you remember when you were a kid, you used to hold your breath real long, turn yourself you're turning yourself red, and and then you pass on to. It had a lot feels a lot like that too when it happens.
It's interesting.
I'll give you another try to give you another explanation. I was having some epidurals done to my back, and the doctor's like, "Yeah, just come on in. It's outpatient surgery. We're just gonna stick about 4 or 5 of them in your spine. We'll give you a little." And then I'm sitting back here and I'm listening to the anesthesiologist arguing. I was told I had 4 cases when I came here and this and that. So he's like, well, we decided that we're gonna go ahead and put you under anesthesia before we can do these. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
And I remember they gave me ketamine, right? And I was like, Doc, I've never been so fucked up in my life.
Yeah.
I said, I was like floating above you guys. I could hear what you guys were talking about. And at one point, I was like, oh, I wonder if I died. It feels like I'm dead right now. Well, I was like, oh, if this is what being dead is like, this is pretty cool. It felt like, those human body people that do those human kites, they fly around all the mountains and you're soaring through up and down around the curves and all that. That's what it felt like. And they said at one point that I don't know when I thought, maybe it's when I thought I was dying or something, like I was dead. They said my blood pressure dropped dangerously. They had to give me medication to stabilize me and everything. So when I came out of it, I said, Doc, I've never been so fucked in my life. I said, it was really cool, but I never want to do it again.
Right.
So that's what it's like having concussions, I think, to me. That's the best way
Oof.
to describe it. But I'm sure everyone has different take and different reactions to concussion, because it's just trauma on the brain. It keeps swelling and bleeding, and it's just. I mean, they've learned a lot. In I guess what's the guy's name that the wrestler that has the institute now,
Chris Nowinski.
Yeah, Chris Nowinski, yeah. Because I know a bunch of the guys have donated, put in their, their will and trust and everything to donate their brain to his foundation and everything
Right.
for, studying and everything.
The interesting thing, you mentioned Mick Foley before, and I think Mick has talked about, that he sort of mainstreamed the deathmatch, aspect of wrestling. But let's remember,
You're right.
Terry Funk was doing these death matches with him. But Terry Funk was making $25,000 to do them.
Wow.
So if you're going to do them and you're going to be paid that level of money, then, well, if that's what you choose to do to make money, at least you're being well compensated. I think
that's true.
where the deathmatch wrestlers of today have kind of gone astray is that the money is way down.
Well, they do death matches as like an independent circuit, so they're getting paid, $25 or whatever. They
I don't know what
spend more
I don't know
money.
what they get paid.
Yeah, I'm just guessing, correlating it to, being on the independent wrestling, the Outlaws and stuff like that. You're getting, my day was like, hey, make sure you stay to tear down the ring afterwards, or otherwise you're not getting any of the leftover hot dogs and Coke, and it wasn't cocaine.
Right.
So
I know.
so
And I feel badly for those. That's what I'm saying, and that's my point. Is I feel badly for these guys. I
Yeah.
feel bad for Hangman Page, who's had at least 2 concussions that I know of, because they happened
Right.
in Ring of Honor, and they were doozies. And we sat him out, and I was concerned because I thought, here's a young guy who's in his early mid-20s, who's already heading down this road, and it wasn't anything. I can't remember how he got them. It wasn't anything extraordinary. It was part of a match, maybe like that spot with Tilly where you got inadvertently kicked. It could have been something like that. But I look at Adam Page, and I see that they could build everything around him. And yet he's shortening his career doing these death matches with Jon Moxley, and you don't need to.
Right.
And in the same show, you had another star who's now 36, who couldn't even wrestle on the show when he was advertised because of concussions. It's like there's such a disconnect.
Do you think part of that has to be to who their boss is? Whoever's in charge of that, letting them fulfill their childhood fantasies?
I think
or
so.
maybe he's fulfilling his childhood fantasies along with them. That's why they're there.
I think
we can look at this.
That's what you have to say. Ultimately, regardless of what the rationale might be, all signs and all fingers have to point to Tony Khan. Now, Adam Cole came into AEW with a history of concussions. Okay. And because he had one, and then he got knocked for a loop at Forbidden Door in a 4-way, and it's been downhill for him ever since. Yeah. So wouldn't you think, and you have to know that Hangman Page has had at least a couple, because I'm sure it's come up in conversation, and I'm sure Tony is aware of it. At some point, don't you have to say, we've got to stop? We've got to watch this stuff? We have to take this.
Definitely.
And saying that you've got this medical protocol and this medical team and all of this, no, man, that's after the fact. It's too late then. We can get them the best care. I'm not saying that you can't get them the best care. What I'm saying is they shouldn't need the best care.
Yeah, that's like Arn Anderson telling me to hurt myself. It's cheaper to fix me than it is to replace a camera. It's the same logic right there. You have to look at it this way. In my day, in other guys' days before me, if you didn't work, you had to work hurt, because if you didn't, someone else was going to take your spot.
Right.
So if you went to the back and said, "Hey, I'm messed up," they're just going to say, "Okay, go home." And, out of sight, out of mind, they're going to forget about you. But it's not like that. AEW is not going to, say, "Oh, you're hurt." Okay. It's not like that. You're going to keep them around. So, yeah, you would really have to put a lot of the blame. Unfortunately, we'll probably get a lot of heat from it on the internet. But, if we're not there, we're not true to our, our profession as broadcasters, we have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tony Khan, it's your fault.
I mean, it is because again, you have to look at what we're doing. You have to say,
right,
okay, I didn't put Adam Cole in this scenario. Adam Cole came in with a history of concussions, and he's gotten at least 2 on my watch now, maybe 3. Right. And he has to go out and make an appearance and explain to everybody that he's going to go away for a while, and maybe he'll come back and maybe he won't. And everybody feels bad. But I also believe that the fans of today are way more forgiving and way more understanding about concussions, because they've been smartened up too. They've all read the stories about Chris Nowinski, and they've seen their favorite NFL player, or as Southern Joe in Australia said, their favorite AFL player, have to retire because of concussions. We all know the story of Junior Seau. We all know the story of Jack Lambert, and everybody in the audience understands what this is, and no one is going to blink an eye or burn their seats or throw their tickets away if we're not making sure that our guys are on the cusp of potentially getting seriously hurt for real when all they're doing is providing us with entertainment. That's the fan of today. And,
and if they were
it's
smart about
easier.
it, they could turn that into a storyline because people want to know the truth and what's really going on. They can be like, they can go to the doctors and all that stuff and have it all, put in as a video thing, as a
Right.
video package and, publicize it all.
And if you're worried about
Well,
getting sued, and if that's for the reason that you don't publicize it, then shame on you. And that's WWE, that's AEW, TNA, that's anybody. When
Right.
I was in WWF, Kurt Angle, of course, famously was in that three-way match, and he got knocked out cold and but it was it was supposed to be a work, and it turned out to be a shoot, and he, as a work, but as a shoot, got stretchered out, and then remembered that he had to do a spot, and he had to come back. So he got knocked out for real, but he was supposed to get knocked out for pretend, and he came back and finished the match, but he had gotten knocked out for real.
Oh, that's great.
And it's like, how do we balance that as storytellers and producers? No, sorry, you're out, pal. You got knocked out for real? We'll call it on the fly out there with the two remaining guys, and they'll figure out the finish. And I don't care if Kurt was supposed to go over. It's wrestling. We'll figure out another way.
Yeah,
there's a way to. We'll do it down the line once Kurt's healthy. Who cares? Who cares? Look at what Seth Rollins did last night. So Seth Rollins, while that long AEW extravaganza was going on, WWE had their own pay-per-view thing. And Seth Rollins did a moonsault in the ring, the lion salt spot, jumping on the second rope and moonsaulting, lands on his feet, though, because LA Knight had rolled out of the way, so he does the mid-flight adjustment and lands on his feet. When he does, he jams his knee. And went down in a great deal of pain, could barely put any weight on it. And they found out, and they came up with, on the fly, a non-physical way for the finish to happen that told a really compelling story. And it's very, very interesting. Basically, go ahead and pin me because I can't finish this match. Fascinating.
Oh, wow.
So that was probably the finish, meaning LA Knight was supposed to go over. And Seth Rollins came up with an interesting way to call it on the fly and have that result happen. Pretty cool. But it doesn't change the fact that who knows what happened. He could have he didn't land awkwardly. He just landed hard. Did he hyperextend his knee? Did he jam the high and the low together and, tear an ACL? Did he do something like that? I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Well, what happens on the ring sometimes, as you're coming down, the ring's going up and it punches into you.
Yep.
Sort of like I did to this microphone.
Punching up and punching down on the microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happens. Some rings that are loose, when you're running, it feels like you jamming your knees because the platform of the ring is bouncing as you're running. So you're going down, it's going up, or vice versa. It's some rings are just dangerous. I know their rings aren't, but it's possible it could happen, or board slips and pops up. Things like that happen that people won't see, they don't notice, they would never thought of. It could be just the simplest thing like that. The board popped up, and as when the board popped up, it tore his ACL shooting it up, or whatever happened to his knee.
Yeah, and and again, Liv Morgan a few weeks ago took a face bump after getting a drop toe hold at the beginning of the match and broke her wrist. Landed awkwardly and broke her wrist. Or broke her arm. It happens, or dislocated her elbow or something, but it was an arm injury. I think she broke a bone in her arm.
I guess no one's smarting them up that wrestling's fake.
Yeah, right? But it's that's the point. It's so real that we as producers, we don't need to make it real. Because everybody is smart. They had 25,000 fans or whatever the number was. It was an amazing house. Everybody in that in that building, and everybody watching on pay-per-view, they know exactly what wrestling is.
Right.
And they're still there to see it. We don't need to work them.
Right.
We can tell a compelling story that they know. And what happens? Was that real? That's the conversation that's in the, ooh, was that supposed to happen? Ooh, I think they're really mad. Happens all the time now because guys are really good at their jobs. And I think that when you cross that line and now all of a sudden they know it's real glass and they know that it's, Moxley got forked in the head and that was it. He got stabbed in the head. It was bleeding profusely. What are we doing? I mean,
New Jack wasn't involved in it.
No, he was nowhere to be seen. God rest his soul.
Jerome.
I just don't get it. I don't know. And maybe I'm just because one of the things that always bothered me, Casey, when I'm sitting at ringside and I'm doing commentary and guys would be in these dangerous spots. And it's like, even if it's not dangerous, just if they're teetering on the top rope, right? And one guy's going to superplex the other, and they're both doing that balancing act, and maybe the other guy just guts him. And one guy lands on his feet, and the other guy on the top rope crossbody. Very simple. But as they're standing on that top rope, I'm imagining that they're going to fall backwards, and they're going to go onto the floor instead of going, completing the spot, whatever the spot might be. My heart's in my throat.
I don't like to me
real.
Before.
Oh, wait,
I
which
was
one?
wrestling. I was on top of a steel cage. I was wrestling Tommy Rich, and I was right where the cage comes together.
Yeah.
Standing on top of it, and all of a sudden the cage started going backwards. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going for a ride here. And I ended up, halfway, ringside on top of people.
Oh my God,
The panel
really?
of the cage fell off. But that stuff happens. Ropes break. I've been watching a lot of stuff. It's funny. You talk about something, and all of a sudden it starts showing up on your phone everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is really, really crazy. One of the things about watching when people wrestle and hit the ropes and the rope snaps and breaks and everything, and there's some really good collages out there of different promotions in WWE. Even WWE rings break when they stand on the top rope and it snaps and they all fall back. It's that stuff happens, and you just have to react. That's muscle memory, just reacting, trying to have the least amount of damage and the least amount of an injury happen from that mishap.
Right.
So it's that's crazy when things like that happen.
And WWE has taken some they've gotten criticized, if you will, because you could tell that there was a crash pad underneath the table when Shane McMahon fell off. Yeah, you're damn right. There was a crash pad under there, and God forbid if he would have gotten hurt. What do we want to do? No, we don't want to do that. And I think that those people are few and far between nowadays. I think the majority of fans look at it and say, this is what wrestling is. We know it. We love the guys. We just don't want them to get hurt doing it. When you landed on the floor after that cage bump, how'd that feel?
Oh, luckily I fell on a couple big fat women, so it was a little cushion for me.
Did you really?
Yeah, I landed on top of people. Yeah.
Did any of them get hurt?
That was my biggest fear as a promoter. What's that?
Did any of them get hurt?
Not majorly, but yeah, they got bruised up and knots and stuff like that. As a promoter, and you're gonna know because we're, the pro wrestling event's coming up. August 9th at the Carlisle Expo Center?
That's right, baby.
Yeah, so as a promoter, when you're putting on these shows, that's the biggest fear was outside the barricades is what's going to happen if someone gets hurt. That's what always went in my mind when I was promoting shows. When I was wrestling, I didn't care, but once I, changed roles and become the promoter, I was always worried about it. I had so much security out there, and all my security were actually my head of security for MXPW, my buddy Seth, and he's the head of security for Metallica right now. he travels the world with Metallica. Anytime you see the lead singer, he's the big bald-headed guy with the headset on, walking right next to him. Anytime, what's his name, James Hetfield?
Hetfield, yes.
Anytime he's there, he's right next to him. He was the head security for MXPW.
Amazing.
And it's like, you know what? Don't just sit in your chair and watch the show. You want to make sure that everyone outside that barricade is not going to get injured, because that's going to come out of my pocket.
Right.
So,
well, I can tell you this. One of the, when I evaluate talent and I decide, whether or not I want to have him on my show or not, is the Dr. Tom standard. So Dr. Tom Pritchard, of course, is world renowned as one of the best trainers in wrestling. And one of the things that he taught me was he looks at a guy doing a side headlock takeover. And how does he give the side headlock takeover? Does he throw the guy on his head? Or does he very nimbly make sure that he wraps that head underneath so that the guy taking the side headlock takeover does not land on his head at all, and he takes a nice flat back bump? And for me, that's one of the biggest things. I don't want to see anybody land on their head. And that's why I'm doing a throwback promotion or whatever. We're changing the wrestling style, because the wrestling style, I wrote about this on Facebook a couple weeks ago. The wrestling style needs to change, because everybody that goes to shows knows what it is now, right? And you can get away with, you can give them the arm drags. You could, as Rip Rogers describes it, and Bob and I teach it, the anchor. What's the anchor? What's your anchor? Well, I'm always going to go back to the head, or I'm always going to go back to the arm. Okay, then tell that story. That's all you need to do now, Casey. You don't need to stand on top of cages with Tommy Rich. Just do a side headlock takeover, work a headlock.
Tackle, drop down, get it again.
Exactly.
Go back to it, get it again. Yep.
That's what get it again means. And when you say that, and that, is an expression that, Ricky Morton gets a lot of credit for. In fact, Ricky Morton will tell you that he was the one that came up with get it again.
I learned it from Blackjack Mulligan.
So there you go. But the idea of get it again, and when you explain it to the young wrestlers of today, a lot of them don't know it. And then when you show it to them, they go, oh, that's what this means. Everybody knows the expression. They didn't know what it meant.
Everyone thinks it's so easy when they see it. Oh, I can do all that. When you get in there, there's so many intricate little things you have to do, because it's like, how can they always end up being in the right place at the right time every single time? Well, there's reasons why. If you're trained the right way, you learn those reasons, and you'll learn to be where you need to be when you're supposed to be there.
Exactly. There's so many little intricacies, but so many little fail safes to know. Ring positioning on a hot tag. You're in the middle, and the guys come in and bounce off of you. You're not running around chasing them. Tag wrestlers always need to get in on the right side of the ring post.
Yeah.
Because that's just when you're working with the left arm, and if you get in on the right side, if you want to do a double team move, you're in perfect position. If you don't want to do a double team move, you get in on the right side. The guy's right there to take a headlock, let's say, for example, and then he shoots you off tackle. All of those little things.
You the frustrations of teaching that to my old tag team partner.
Brother.
So why are you crossing over in front? No, do it. Yeah.
And he was training guys.
No, I was training them.
No, well, when he had a school before you, him and Terry were training guys.
Yeah.
And
when I got in there, took over, he had come in the first week or so, and then we just get rid of him. Say, oh, Cliff gone home, and we take over and teach it, and because he'd be like, quit running, quit being so rough, and when you're running off all the people that are actually paying me money,
They don't belong in here.
That was my whole point. Of course, I wasn't the one paying the rent, so I can see his point too, I guess.
I understand that. And that's an argument, not an argument. That's a discussion that I've had with Bob Evans and had with others, and with, and it's like, my belief is that this is not for everyone. And I think that, and what I'm saying is that it's not for everyone. It's that people are not physically capable. Not everybody. I'm not physically capable. I wasn't physically capable of doing this as a wrestler. That doesn't mean I can't work in the industry. It just means that you have to be special and unique. And you're only going to get hurt if you do this. So tell them on the front end, not, you're going to get hurt. Oh, it's okay. I'll get hurt. Okay, then. No, I have to look out for your best interest. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be part of the promotion. That doesn't mean that I can't find something for you to do. Referee, ring announce, promotions, logistics with making sure the ring truck is where it's supposed to be, putting the rings together, whatever. It doesn't mean I can't find a spot for you. It just means I don't think you should be doing this. And that's a very difficult conversation for people to have. Yeah.
I had a catchphrase that I used for many, many, many years. It's like, this isn't Little League. Everyone doesn't get to play.
That's true. That's a really good way to look at it.
And it's a business. I had guys when I ran my promotion that were mad because I didn't use them. I was friends with them, but I'm like, guess what, bud? You're not going to make it out there ever in my ring. You're never going to wrestle. Now, if you want to be a referee, you want to do this, you want to do that, I'll find you a spot. But, it is what it is.
And there have been people that have, I've gotten a lot of messages from different people, and I've told them, you're not what we're looking for. And the guys that I picked, like on this poster, there's a lot of names that nobody's ever heard of. And part of that is that there, when I say nobody's ever heard of, if you're from upstate New York, you've heard of Sean Carr. You've seen them. You've seen him. You've seen Pat Sawyer. If you're from Indiana or Ohio or Virginia, you know who Brandon Day is. Fans in Pennsylvania have never seen them. Mosh Pit. Luis Leon's going to be there. The Neighborhood. Those guys are from New England. And they're great. But I know that by putting them in the ring, they're going to do they're going to do their job, and they're going to do their job safely. The Golden Era is Monster Factory product, and there's other guys from the Monster Factory that we're going to use in future shows. It's you have to know where they come from, and you have to be willing to say no to people that you could easily book. You're familiar with them, you know them, they're local, they're inexpensive. That doesn't mean that you want them on your show, and that's a hard conversation to have with people.
Well, that's the difference between every other show out there and then a good quality show.
Mm-hmm.
So you become the biggest heel when you become a promoter. You lose so many friends. So, they get mad at you because you're not, I lost so many friends when we did that Lords of the Ring tag team tournament. They were so mad at me about all kinds of stuff. But it's just business.
Right. It's business. When you look at when you look at guys who are, there's potential. And I did a seminar in Pittsburgh at the end of May, and there were like 37 guys there, and I was really underwhelmed with everybody. And I told them that, including with their trainers right there. I said, you need to, mediocre people generate mediocre results. And you need to start looking at who you run with, what your circle of friends is. And you need to start getting away from those people because they're dragging you down. I don't know if that's the reason why I saw what I saw here today, but let me tell you, I wasn't impressed at all. And it's up to each and every one of you who are willing to invest this money today to decide, do I want to do this for real, or do I need to go find something else to do? And if you want to do this for real, let me tell you what you need to do. You need to get away from the people that are dragging you down, because most of you are not in good enough shape. Most of you didn't display the fundamentals to be able to wrestle at the next level. WWE ID program is not going to look at you for any more than 2 seconds. And I don't care how impressive you look physically, but when they see that you can't do the fundamentals right, they're not going to bother with you. They're bringing you into that ID program because they don't have to teach you. So your fundamentals have to be, and if you're 6'7" and 300 pounds, your fundamentals can be a little loose, but you have to not want to kill people. And if you're 5'9" and 170 pounds, as a lot of guys are today, your fundamentals have to be perfect. There's no margin for error. And I told people that, said, listen, you hang out at this wrestling school, and it's like social hour.
The problem you get, Kevin, is the people that are teaching it even are the same way.
Yeah,
that's what they do as a hobby. They're not trying to do it as a living. They're not trying to be, that's what I do for my living, what I do to survive, for my livelihood, my life. They just do it because, you know what, I look cool in front of all the people at the gym at the neighborhood. They say, oh, he's a wrestler. And those are the type of people that have tarnished the business and give a bad mark for the business and makes all of us look bad that are legitimate wrestlers out there.
So what's your opinion of Jon Moxley? Because Jon Moxley is, he's a polarizing individual.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I like him personally. I loved what he did in the G1 when he came in and he had diligently trained and built his body up and had trained with a legendary mixed martial arts trainer and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and spent a lot of time on the mat and done a lot of things like that and got himself ready for this G1 tournament. And I was like, I've never seen too many guys come in better shape and be ready to go quite like Jon Moxley was for that. And
I think the reason why I don't like him now, my opinion of his is probably pretty close to Jim Cornette's. And I think it all is because they're allowing it to happen. And once again, whose fault is it? Tony Khan.
Yep.
Tony Khan. There you go.
If you don't want Jon Moxley to wrestle the way Jon Moxley does on your show, then you tell him this is not working.
Right. Did Vince let him?
No.
Yeah, there you go.
Gato was one, and not to talk about Moxley, but guys went to Gato all the time in New Japan with some crazy ideas. And he would say, no, maybe no. Maybe no. That meant absolutely. I never heard him once say, no fucking way. That's the worst idea I ever heard of in my whole life. Get out of my face. It was always, maybe no. Maybe no.
But he got his point across.
He did. I was like, go ahead. Tell him your crazy idea. Let's see how that goes. Because I think it's terrible and I think it's too much. And they would go and give their crazy idea. And maybe no. Oh, he said maybe no. What a shock.
Sometimes less is better.
It's always better. It's always better. There's never a time where more is better, except at the buffet.
I would tell people when you go out there, when you want to slow it down about half as fast as you're going, and then you're probably still going a little too fast.
Too fast, right?
Yeah.
And I know, from having, because guys that were, let's say, your age, maybe a little older, that when they broke in, they were wrestling older guys. So guys that had wrestled in the 70s, let's say, and they were constantly being told in the ring, slow down, kid, slow down, slow down. I'm already working half speed because so-and-so doesn't move fast. What does he want me to do? He wants you to go even slower.
Yeah. There's reasons why.
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand.
Right. And we sound like two old fogies, and I get it.
Register.
Thank you. That's the point. That's the point right there. The human brain can only process so much information so fast, and we have such short attention spans.
Like Kevin Sullivan said, 17 seconds.
And it's even less now. There are studies that, and again, because of OCD culture that we're in, and cell phones and screen to screen, it's 3 seconds. When you put up a video on Facebook, the metric that you get is, did somebody watch this video for more than 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Holy cow. I really got to front load this thing. 17 things that you need to know that are awesome that you must listen to. You got 3 seconds to tell them exactly what your video is about.
You got to get that hook in fast.
That's why the shorts on YouTube go so well. We've been on the air for an hour and 10 minutes plus. But where we're going to get more views is in the shorts. People are going to watch the shorts more than they will watch the entire episode.
Sure, and that's everywhere, though.
That is.
Unless you're Joe Rogan.
And then you got sponsors who are willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I do want to, again, we're rapidly running out of time here on this episode of the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. But I do want to remind everybody, of course, Saturday, August the 9th is the debut of The Pro Wrestling at the Carlisle Expo Center. And, of course, all the information, you can go to timehonoredexcellence.com. There's some information there. We've posted a bunch on Facebook. The website's kind of meh. But you can get tickets at getthetix.com. And I'll have them on sale this week in Carlisle at Comics and Cool Stuff on High Street. The actual physical tickets that you'll be able to buy. Otherwise, you just buy them virtually through the website. And the Pro Wrestling Store, which you see in my signature, theprowrestlingstore.bigcartel.com is where you can go, Casey, to get the first The Pro Wrestling T-shirt. Which
I saw that today. Those things look nice.
Beautiful. Very happy with them. $30 a shirt. Size ranges from small to 3X. And for everybody who buys a shirt, you'll get a thank you call directly from me.
Telephone call?
I will ring them up on the telephone. I mean, I'll use my cell phone.
I might buy one just for that. Kevin Kelly's going to call me.
Casey, what the hell do you want?
I got a random text from Kevin Kelly this week. I was like, wow, check that out.
I sent you something. We're on the path. Okay, so Alex Hormozy is a world-renowned marketer, and I'm watching his stuff and I'm learning about business and all kinds of different things. And I sent something to Casey this week that just like, you know that 99% of podcasters, people who do podcasts, and this is insane to Casey because I told him, but this is to all of you. 99% of podcasts do fewer than 20 episodes. Once we get to 21, we're in the 1%.
Oh, we're past that, bud.
Woo! We've done it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So look at us. In the 1%. I think about you all the time, Casey. Thinking about you. Thinking about this podcast all the time, thinking about all the places it'll go and people will see and all the different things that we're going to get to do because of it, all the good that it's doing. Shining a light on a forgotten era, on unappreciated talents and getting your viewpoints across. Casey Thompson knows his shit, folks. He knows what's going on, and he always has.
Yeah.
And now it's just a question of getting it out of him. So we had to work out the cobwebs, and now we've gotten his brain right. And here he is, 11 concussions later, and he's becoming a fairly adequate broadcaster. In fact, more than fairly adequate, a damn decent one. How about that?
Yeah, I'm not drooling when I'm talking anymore or any of that, so it's all good.
Little less drool. That's okay. That's all right. I got to fix this light. What the hell's going on with this? All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Casey, any final thoughts about this episode? What's to come?
One last thing I got to talk about.
Talk to me.
Can't forget about this. Goldberg's last match.
Okay, let's talk about Goldberg's last match because that was the main event of last night's show. That was what the whole show was built around. And he did the honor on his way out. Guy who, his undefeated streak was a thing of beauty and was one of the fastest rising stars in the industry. What do you think about the way Goldberg was presented in his final ride?
You know what? As long as he walked out, he was happy. That's all I care about. They did let him bring everyone into the ring afterwards, and I'm sure they cut it off. They didn't show it, which naturally they're not going to. But they had all of his friends and everyone in there. Diamond Dallas Page was in there. Ernest Miller, Lodi. I mean, a lot of the boys were in there and stuff like that. His friends and family and all that. So I will say this. I was there and I watched the evolution of Goldberg, and it was something of beauty to watch. And Kevin Sullivan had a lot to do with it. which even makes it more special to see
Mhm.
it all come full circle and for him to go out and everything. And I will tell you this, that he was always the type of person that he'd come back and ask everyone, "Hey, did you watch my match? What do you think?" When he's doing dark matches and everything. So he was a good dude. And he's been to my house. He drove me home once when my car broke down. We told that story before. It's in some previous episodes. You know what? I think he's pushing for his son to get out there, which we'll see what happens. But I don't think you're never going to be able to duplicate, the everything special about what happened with the rise of Goldberg over the years. But I think it was great.
He was one of the most impactful performers of the Attitude Era. When you look at what he did and how it helped WCW business, how it helped push WWE to the brink to continue to create, develop, grow, and for the power plant to be what it was and the reputation that it had. Oh, it's just a bunch of muscle heads and all they do is squats. When you get DDP out of it and when you get Goldberg out of it, if you're a company like WCW, you could say it was worth it. That's what I think is. I think it's great. I know Bret Hart, not a fan.
Yeah, he's a
Not
little
a fan.
cranky.
He was not there with Goldberg in the ring. Was Dwayne Bruce there?
I did
Was
not see
Sarge
him.
there?
I don't think he was. I didn't see that.
No. Would have been nice to have
Unless
seen
he was
Sarge
hiding
there.
somewhere under the ring doing the
He's little.
leprechaun deal. Yeah.
I saw it. So I was at my buddy's office the other day. We were talking, and there's a young guy who was a D1 wrestler, like your son Chase, and was hinting around that he, maybe it's something that I might want to do. Maybe I might. And he's got, red hair, red curly hair, and a red beard. And he's like, and my buddy says, "What would you do, Kevin?" And I said, "I'd get a green suit and a green derby hat, and you would be the fucking leprechaun."
There you go.
Sorry.
Oh, and happy birthday to my son today. He turned 22.
Happy birthday. That's amazing.
Yes, sir. And he has a brand new car in the driveway. Boynton Beach Police Department. He has his take-home car. He starts his next shift tomorrow on his own. 22 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
that's something else.
He finished all of his field training. He blew it out of the park.
He's always been special. Both of your kids.
Yeah.
Both him and Izzy are just something else. And we always knew it. And we always said it. And it's like, and now we're seeing it. And a lot of us said, well, obviously Chase is going to grow up and he's going to become a wrestler. He's going to follow in Dad's footsteps or whatever. And that just, like you said, that just wasn't something he was interested in. That doesn't mean he's not going to be, incredibly special in his chosen field, which is to be a police officer.
Yep.
So congratulations, Chase, and happy birthday. 22 years old, and he's already out on his own. Do you worry about him every day when he's on shift?
I sleep better when he's at home and he's off. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
He's a third-generation police officer in his family.
Really? So who else was the cop besides Chase?
His uncles, his mother's brothers, and his grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said for legacy.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people that have gotten into police work or have become firemen have followed a family member into the chosen profession. A lot of truck drivers too, as well. So it's very it's a challenging field, no doubt about it. I couldn't imagine being a cop nowadays. I watch that. What is that? It's not live PD anymore. It's on Reels.
Yeah.
Same guys, same
I watch
show.
it all the time.
I love that show. But what those cops have to deal with those crazies on drugs?
Oh, I ask him questions all the time. I said, "What do you do when someone says, I want you to call your supervisor. Let me see your ID." No. He says, I tell him one more time, and then I take him out of the car. I arrest him.
There you go.
I tell him what to do. I'm like, no, my supervisor's not coming.
Get out of the car.
So he's good. He's level-headed. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. He's pretty, he has a great foundation and everything. So it's, we're very excited for him, and can't wait to see what Izzy comes up with now.
Oh my gosh.
So
whatever she wants to do.
She was promoting the show. She was promoting the show this weekend. They were at some store or something. They had an NWO T-shirt. Her boyfriend was talking to the owner, saying, "Yeah, my girlfriend's father is Casey Thompson. He has this in-ring wrestling podcast with Kevin Kelly, and he wrestled and all that stuff." And so they're out promoting the show for us. So
God bless him.
Grassroots, one person at a time. That's how we're gonna grow.
He's kissing ass, man. He's really trying to get over with you. My God.
Yeah, it's all good.
That's awesome. Well, as long as he's a good kid and treats her right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast. And who knows what we're going to come up with. I know that I've got a million topics in mind. Casey's got a ton of topics. We're never going to run out of material because there is so much to talk about through the various incarnations of our career and some of the different things that we've done, the places we've been, the people we've seen. And we will do this again live next Sunday with all of you. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everyone you know, tell people you don't know that the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast gets together right here live every Sunday all across social media. So make sure you tune in. And when you're on YouTube this week, look for those shorts, look for the files, make sure you're liking them. It helps us in the algorithm. We really do appreciate it. So, Casey, that's it for this week, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, pal. So for Casey Thompson, I'm Kevin Kelly. We thank you all very much for joining us for the In-Ring Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time. And we've done it.